Hello and welcome to my today's video, in which I'm going to tell you why I am a BTS ARMY and why I will always be. And from the very beginning, I want to say that it's not like I'm not trying to convince anybody of the importance of BTS or anything like this. You are free to believe whatever you want to believe, and it's none of my business what you think about anything. It's rather a video to express my gratitude for everything that I've been through due to BTS and for all of the changes that have happened to me while I was listening to them and while I was following them. And also maybe to initiate the conversation and to initiate the sharing of the experience, because I know that a lot of armies have similar experience to mine, and I would be really, really happy to hear it from you, to read it from you in the comments, maybe to this video, or like in whatever way you would like to share it. And it's very interesting that they say that BTS will find you when you need them the most. And in my case, it was exactly like this, because they found me when my life was, well, the very basics of my life were shattered to the ground. And it happened when the full-scale war in my country began. The war is a situation when the very basics of what you believe about reality are being destroyed. It's like, you know, when you, for example, break up with someone, or when you lose your partner, or when you lose a job, for example, it's very difficult and it's very fundamental, but it's not as confusing, to say the least, as the beginning of the war with like missiles and explosions and military sirens and all the things that are happening during the war, and the murder, everyday murder in your own country. And this is what I experienced in 2022. The breakdown of the very basics of what my psychic relied on the external reality. And I first saw BTS. I knew that, I kind of heard that BTS exists, something like this. I didn't know anything about them. But the first time I saw them was it was one of the first mass missile attacks on our infrastructure, and it was in autumn 2022. I was alone in my apartments, in the hall of the apartments, which is kind of the safest place in the apartments, but not entirely safe, because there's no such thing as entirely safe place. And it was at night, and I was, you know, it's a situation when you can't do anything. There are missiles somewhere flying in the sky of your country, and you don't know where they are going to hit. And you can't influence it. So you just wait for it to be over. And I was scrolling TikTok to kind of distract myself, and I saw, I remember it so vividly, I saw a fan cam of Jungkook there was a performance in Las Vegas from Blood, Sweat and Tears. And I was like, who's that? I remember exactly, it was Blood, Sweat and Tears plus Fake Love. I remember exactly what he was wearing. I remember exactly what he looked like. I remember everything, honestly, from that video that I saw. I was like, okay, let me see a little bit more. And I started looking at other Jungkook videos, and I started to look at BTS videos, and this is how I, you know, kind of fell into this rabbit hole of BTS and K-pop generally. And one of the first very fundamental things that happened internally to me due to BTS was when, I remember vividly that it was 2022, autumn of 2022. I was standing on this same place where I'm sitting right now, and I was listening to Tokyo by RM. And you know, the biggest difficulty when something very fundamentally changes in your life is not to live your life from the new basics, but to accept that it's never going to be the way it used to be. That you cannot return the life that you used to have. that now everything will be entirely different forever. And a few months before that, I broke up with my boyfriend of 6 years. And it was like everything that I relied on, I had to leave. I had to abandon. I had to accept the fact that it's never going to be like it used to be. And I remember vividly this process inside of me, this shifting happening to Tokyo. And I still stood the song of Namjoon from his mixtape Mono. And to this day, I associate this song with this situation when you know that you have to abandon everything that you relied on, and you don't know what will grow from this release, what will grow when you abandon what you used to know. And to this day, I associate this song with the beginning of my second life, the life based on entirely different things than the ones that it used to be built upon. In spring 2023, Faye's album of Jimin and D-Day album of Yoongi were released. And I remember at that time I was already capable of, like, for me it was very in time because I was basically reinventing myself. And while the winter was kind of a period of hibernation when I was trying to just to just live, to just go through it. The autumn, the spring of 2023 was the period when I was trying to find my new understandings, my new values. And one of them was actually freedom. And Set Me Free, I remember Set Me Free and Hagam. They were the songs which set this base for my understanding of freedom generally. And also D-Day was extremely important for me because it gave me a lot of experience and a lot of motivation to go inside of me to purify my shadow. Not purify, to get acquainted with my shadow. And Yoongi generally, for me, is the kind of a person that I really, really associate with shadow work and freedom that this shadow work gives. Apart from that, like a little bit later, I remember the song Snooze. It was kind of... from the beginning of the war, I felt that I will be helping people in some way. And at some point, I started to learn how to be a yoga teacher. And also at some point, I was introduced to the idea of healing. And both yoga teacher and healer practice is based less on the tools and knowledge and more on awakening your internal archetype of a healer. And this was a challenge for me because nobody can do it for you. And you have to find your path towards the archetype of a teacher and archetype of a healer on your own. And I remember that the song Snooze was exactly this path for me, Yoongi's song Snooze, because it expresses at the same time the acknowledgement of the difficult path that we walk, at the same time that it gives support through just presence and acknowledgement. And it is all soaked in this intention to make the life easier for another person who is on this path. And I remember for the first maybe 10 or 15 times when I listened to Snooze, I cried every time because of how close it was to my soul, because how much my soul resonated with this, with all of the values which are represented in it, with all of the ideas and all of the feeling, just the vibe that is in this song. And I will forever be grateful for that. And the same way as I was, exploring my pain and my sensitivity with Namjoon, the same way as I was exploring freedom and shadow with Jimin and Yoongi, the same way as I was exploring my depth with Jungkook, and also I was exploring my mystery with Hoseok, and also I was exploring my innocence with Taehyun, and also I was exploring my resiliency with Seokjin. And all of this will forever be a part of me. I really don't know, I don't have any merch of BTS. And I really don't know if I will be able to make it to their concert. And if everything continues the way it is in my life right now, I most probably will not. But they will always be a part of me. Not in the way that not in the meaning that I got something from them, but in the meaning that I was able to find myself being reflected from them. I was able to find my features, my freedom, my purpose being reflected from them, from who they are as people, but also through what they create, through what they transmit, through how they resonate. And there are a lot of groups that I like, honestly. There are a lot of groups that I really resonate with, especially right now. But I will never be able to call myself anything else but an army, a BTS army, because this experience is unrecreatable. Because BTS helped me build myself from the ground up when I had nothing to rely on, externally or internally. And people often say that K-pop and BTS is like a coping mechanism, how to cope with the reality. But I don't believe that it is a coping mechanism, because BTS are the reality itself. BTS are the representation of the biggest strengths and biggest values and the most fundamental archetypes of the humanity. Maybe I'm saying it loudly, but this is how I feel right now. Of course, they are normal people, just like everybody else. But at the same time, they have this authenticity and have this honesty and have this power of the reality, of what the human is. And that's why they have this power to help us find ourselves. And I'm 100% sure that there will be a lot of people who did this, for whom happened the same thing. And maybe it sounds like I'm exaggerating or I'm dramatizing, and maybe I am, but it doesn't change anything. That's still the truth. BTS are not a coping mechanism. They are the way to find yourself, because in this world as we live right now, there is not much to rely on the outside. Everything is changing and everything is shaken. And I, as a person who has lived in this shit for over 3 years with an ongoing war in my country, I know it like nobody else. Like a lot of people actually here, like a lot of people do. And there is nothing to rely on the outside. You have to find something to rely on inside of you. And to find it, you need to experience it. And to experience it, you need to see it. But you can't see it inside of you. So you need to see it in someone else. And that's why the figures like BTS, like the people who have very characteristic and very powerful archetypes, are very important. It doesn't have to be BTS. For me, it was BTS. But one way or another, you need such figures to be able to experience something that you never knew you had inside of you. When I say I learned something from BTS, it doesn't mean that I got something from them. It means that I was able to find it inside of me, being reflected from them. And this is what I mean when I say that they helped me build my personality from the ground up. And this is what I mean when I say that I will always be grateful for that. And it doesn't matter what happens next. This experience will always be mine. I remember there was a period when I kept seeing different videos where people were speaking about why BTS are so successful as they are. And there was one with Won Shi-hyuk, a pretty good one actually. There were a couple of others. There was the speech of Namjoon at some forum. I don't remember which one it was. And none of these videos and none of these speeches actually answered this question for me. Why BTS are as influential as they are. And I thought, I have this mind that cannot sustain a mystery. Like whenever there is a mystery, my mind keeps trying to find an approach towards it. And I remember I thought it would be so cool if I had a chance to interview all of the BTS members and interview the people around BTS to try and find out this, underlying principle, the secret geometry of chance. What made them as successful as they are? What made them as big as they are? And my mind kind of, I remember I was walking and thinking about it, and my mind kind of jumped and like extrapolated what I could have heard, what I could have found out. And in that same moment, I realized that I wouldn't receive the answer that I would be able to put into words. Because under everything significant, under everything beautiful, under everything important, under everything right, there is always this mystery. There is always something unexplainable. As if the fate itself, as if the God itself, leads the way for this to happen. And I believe that's what I would find. The unresolvable mystery. And I would probably have to say that it was meant to be like that. BTS were meant to become this big to do to people what they've done to me. And I don't know what the next release will be. And I honestly don't really care. Like whatever it is, I will be happy to receive it. Because they've done to me everything that they could already. And I will forever be grateful for that. And it's such an honor and such a privilege to have such experience. And I'm so happy that they exist. And it's apparently the video. Actually, I can't remember half of the things that I said in this video. That's such a funny experience, honestly. Anyways, thank you for watching. See you next time.